Hundreds of figures stretched across 450 square kilometers of Peruvian desert, carved by a people who could never see them from above. The Nazca Lines are a mystery no one can fully explain, and what the evidence reveals only deepens it. South of the Andes, in one of the driest places on Earth, the Nazca Desert stretches across the southern coast of Peru. Here, between 200 BCE and 600 CE, the Nazca people shaped a society that flourished against the odds. Their world was centered on a network of river valleys and arid plains, where survival depended on careful stewardship of water and the rhythms of the land. The Nazca were not a single unified kingdom, but a collection of communities bound together by shared beliefs, trade, and ritual. At the heart of their spiritual life stood Cahuachi, a ceremonial center sprawling over several square kilometers. This was not a city, but a gathering place marked by earthen mounds, plazas, and pyramids where people came to honor ancestors, celebrate the cycles of nature, and reaffirm their ties to each other. The lines etched into the desert were created within this cultural landscape, a landscape shaped by ceremony, cooperation, and a profound sense of connection to the environment. Over an area of nearly 450 square kilometers, the lines left their mark, weaving their identity into the very ground beneath their feet. Across the Nazca Plain, the creation of each line began with a simple act, clearing away the dark, iron-rich pebbles that coated the desert's surface. Beneath this weathered layer, a pale band of lime-rich clay appeared, sharply contrasting with the stones above. The process was methodical. Workers drove wooden stakes into the ground, stretching ropes between them to plot out perfectly straight paths or the graceful arcs of animal figures. Archaeologists have recovered some of these stakes, carbon dated to as early as 500 BCE, confirming their authenticity as Nazca-era tools. The trenches themselves are shallow, just 10 to 15 centimeters deep, and sometimes as wide as a person's outstretched arms. Pebbles were gathered and heaped along the edges, sometimes mixed with fragments of pottery left behind by those who labored. The desert's dryness, with its near absence of rain and wind, helped preserve the exposed lines for centuries. No advanced instruments, no metal tools, just wood, rope, and the determination to impress meaning onto the land. The precision and scale speak to careful planning, collective effort, and a clear vision, even if the ultimate purpose remains elusive. Some of the longest and straightest lines stretch for kilometers across the Nazca Plain, often converging on the horizon or radiating from the slopes near Cahuachi. Archaeologists studying these patterns have traced their connections to ceremonial centers and water sources, mapping a network that suggests movement, not just spectacle. Experimental walks led by researchers like Joe Nickel and Clive Ruggles have shown that groups of people, using only wooden stakes and ropes, could lay out and traverse these paths with remarkable accuracy. The width of many lines, wide enough for dozens to walk side by side, supports the idea of processions, with participants moving in unison during ritual events. Soil studies reveal subtle compaction and traces of repeated passage, especially near Cahuachi, hinting at generations of feet treading the same routes. From the ground, the lines guide the eye toward distant sacred places, while from the low hills their full geometry comes into view. In this reading, the plain itself becomes a canvas for collective ceremony, each path a memory of footsteps and intention, inscribed into the earth. Rain rarely touched the Nazca Plain, yet the survival of its people depended on water flowing beneath the parched earth. In this fragile landscape, the Nazca engineered a network of underground aqueducts called puquillos, coaxing groundwater to the surface with spiral access points that still dot the desert. Even so, drought and uncertainty pressed upon every generation. Archaeologists have uncovered offerings of marine shells and crafted vessels buried far inland, ritual gifts meant to summon fertility from distant sources. Many of the geoglyphs echo these hopes: spirals, undulating lines, and animal figures tied to rain and abundance in Nazca iconography. The act of creating and walking these lines may have been a sacred appeal, a way to inscribe prayers for life itself into the silent desert, blending engineering, ceremony, and the urgent needs of a people shaped by scarcity. In the 1940s, American historian Paul Kosok surveyed the Nazca Plain from the air and noticed that some lines pointed directly to where the sun set on the winter solstice. This observation sparked the idea that the geoglyphs might serve as a vast astronomical calendar, tracking solar events and perhaps even the movements of stars. Detailed measurements confirmed that a handful of lines do align with solstice, sunrise, or sunset. But as more were mapped, the pattern grew less convincing. Statisticians found that only a small fraction of the hundreds of lines correspond to celestial events. And with so many possible directions, chance alone could explain many matches. The astronomical theory, once compelling, now sits among several partial answers, illuminating certain features, but never quite unlocking the whole purpose behind the lines. Maria Rijke spent decades crisscrossing the Nazca Plain, mapping geoglyphs by hand and fighting to shield them from harm. Her work inspired the Peruvian government to restrict access, and in 1994, UNESCO recognized the lines as a World Heritage Site. Yet, even with those protections, threats persist. The Pan American Highway, cut straight through the desert, severed the tail of a 600-foot lizard figure. In recent years, drones and artificial intelligence have revealed hundreds of new geoglyphs, expanding the known network and deepening the sense of responsibility. When a plan to shrink the protected zone surfaced in 2025, public outcry forced a reversal, underscoring how fragile these ancient messages remain. The challenge now is to balance discovery with stewardship, ensuring that what endures in the desert survives for those still to come. The desert holds its silence. Today, the Nazca Lines remain an unanswered invitation, reminding us that some human intentions outlast even memory. Mystery here endures as part of our inheritance.